Welcome to the Evolution Partners podcast, where I talk with the world's leading thinkers, planners, and doers who are helping to build great companies in their own way. We learn how the work they're doing is creating an impact and get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. This episode is brought to you by Evolution Partners, where we help leaders to confidently build enduring great companies using our proven, structured, strategic planning process that ensures you build and execute the right plan. Check us out at evolutionpartners.com.au. Also, you can check out our books, Made to Thrive, outlining how to be a great CEO, as well as Onboarded, which is about making your new hires more effective faster. John Jantsch has been called the world's most practical small business expert for consistently delivering real-world, proven small business marketing ideas and strategies. John is a marketing consultant, speaker, and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Duct Tape Marketing, Duct Tape Selling, The Commitment Engine, The Referral Engine, SEO for Growth, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, and The Ultimate Marketing Engine that we're talking about today. He's the creator of the Duct Tape Marketing System and Duct Tape Marketing Consulting Network that trains and licenses small business marketing consultants around the world. You can find John at ducttapemarketing.com. John, what I see in you is someone who finds great joy in helping hardworking, ordinary business owners become more successful. I see that it's coming from the heart, this need, this want, this desire to help people. I see someone who's a deep thinker who can translate the results of that thought into an easy to understand message and action for the readers. If this resonates with you, John, tell us, how did you come to be in this place?
Well, thanks, Brad. Actually, that was great. I loved it. It resonates completely. But, I started a marketing consulting firm 30 years ago, not without any real plan, just knew I could hustle work. And I got big clients, little clients, big projects, little projects, and eventually landed a couple small, mid-sized businesses as clients, and I really loved working with them. There's something so satisfying with working with the owner, who's pouring their sweat and tears into a business, but they're also really challenging. I mean, they have the same needs, never the same budgets or, even attention spans, right? And so in an effort to continue working with small, mid-sized businesses, I created a very systematic approach to marketing where I could walk into a business and say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get, and here's what it costs. You want it or not? And I pretty quickly found that trying to solve my frustration, I actually tapped into what is still today one of the greatest frustrations with small business. It's hard to buy marketing services. Everybody's selling a piece of the puzzle, and there's a new tactic every single day. And so the idea that somebody was going to offer strategy first, a marketing system that they would know what it was going to cost, I think that was music to their ears. So I guess that's, in a nutshell, that's how I ended up where I am today.
It is hard to buy marketing services. It's so hard because small to medium business owners, in my experience, want a generalist, someone who knows a bit about enough to get things done. But in my observation, the industry is very much segmented into things like digital marketing and SEO and a lot of different areas. It's really hard.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really found was that they're very confused. I mean, they didn't get into business because they knew marketing or they wanted to know how to do SEO. They came to find out pretty quickly they had to deal with all those things. And so a lot of cases, they just kind of abdicate the various elements to people. And so I think one of the real sort of magic, to what we do is that we become a trusted advisor that we orchestrate, everything for them. And I think at the end of the day, most businesses, once they trust somebody to do it, would just as soon have that off their plate completely.
Yeah. So in your book, you say that the ultimate marketing machine is a successful customer. You go on to say that every other marketing book gets this idea terribly wrong. I love that, right? It's really interesting. Can you tell us, how do you define a successful customer And why do others get this so terribly wrong?
Well, I start there. I mean, there's lots of definitions for a successful customer for pretty much every business, but I start there because I think that's really where marketing starts, is that, people come to us because they have a problem they want to solve. Maybe they can't even articulate what that problem is, but they're at some point and they want to go to another point. They want to go from here to there. And so, I think if we started looking at, that transformation, how could our business be the catalyst for, taking people from where they are to where they want to go, or taking businesses from where they are to where they want to go, I think we might make better decisions about what we offer, and certainly about how we talk about what we offer, and promise to solve the problem that our ideal customer is experiencing. So, I think many marketing books, there certainly are many great marketing books, but many marketing books really talk about how do you get the sale? How do you get the click? How do you get, ROI on your ad spend? And I think if we started from, what's in it for the customer, how can we be an advocate for what they want? I just think that's a pretty healthy place to start.
Yeah, I love it. So there was one point in the book where I was reading. It was a bit of a slap in the face with a wet fish, metaphorically, for me. So when we talk about the output of marketing and the work that we do, we look for the output being marketing qualified leads, MQLs.
Yeah, right.
And you say that the referrals are actually the ultimate measure of marketing success. You do talk about MQLs, but then you say, but really it's about referrals. Can you tell us about this?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, people don't refer a company that, let me start over again. People do refer companies that exceed their expectations, that surprise them. And referrals, a lot of people think referrals start after the fact. You provided a service that everybody was happy. Let's go ask them for a referral. And my belief is that referrals happen somewhere much earlier in the customer journey. People make a decision about referring a company, about the experience they're having, really way back in the sales process. Certainly how a transaction, enacts. We may actually provide what we said we were going to provide. They got the result they thought they were going to get, but if the process of getting there was kind of icky, well, they're not going to tell their friends, neighbors, and colleagues. And if you want to ultimately build momentum in a business, getting repeat sales, getting retained sales, getting referrals, that's how you build true momentum. So many people are ultimately focused on how do we get that new sale, or how do we get that new lead, and they're watching sales and leads go out the back door, and there's that's just no way to grow a business. Business builds over time by creating great experiences for that existing customer. Yeah.
And that kind of leads on to the next question. Everyone's seen the sales funnel. It's an upside down triangle that if you can imagine someone drawing on a whiteboard an upside down triangle, and we attract people at the very top, and then we know who they are, and then we court them, and we court them, and we court them, and then eventually they convert. But you've really, this is a bit of a pun, so I apologize on the outset. You've really turned that upside down and then put another triangle on there to call it an hourglass. I just like it in its simplicity, and this comes back to what I said at the beginning about being a deep thinker that's able to translate something really simply. Turning that into an hourglass is fantastic. Can you tell us about that?
Well, you've defined the metaphor pretty well, I think, and what it does. There's nothing really inherently wrong with the funnel idea. We do have to get some percentage of the market out there to know we exist, and probably a smaller percent that realize, you're the right solution for me. But for so many people, that's where marketing ends. We throw some stuff into the top of the funnel and we squeeze a few customers out. And I came up with the hourglass metaphor to say, no, that's actually where marketing begins again. that once somebody becomes a customer, we have the idea to really expand on what we're doing to get more out of them, to certainly retain them for years, and then turn them into advocates for our business. And so I think that, that idea of the funnel, that straight sort of linear path of demand creation, I just think that's really outdated. I mean, we talk about all the changes in marketing that have occurred. The biggest thing that's changed is how customers can buy now, how they choose to buy, how they make decisions. That's really what's ultimately, I think, impacted marketing the most. And so to think that there's this straight linear path when, the journey is really a very crooked line, and it's and many of the stops along the way are kind of out of our control, or we don't actually witness them happening. So our idea of the hourglass is that there are 7 stages, or I like to call them behaviors, that I think people want to go through with the companies that they do business with. And our job as marketers is just make sure that we are addressing each of those stages and hopefully at some point guiding people on the journey that they want to go on. Those stages quickly, and we can break down any of them, are know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And as I said, I think you can even think about your own buying. We all kind of want to go through those behaviors with the companies that we do business with. And so if we do a good job intentionally paying attention to how we move people through those stages, marketing will pretty much take care of itself.
What it really made me think is that the customer acquisition cost at the top of the funnel would be more expensive than the customer retention cost at the bottom of the funnel. Any thoughts?
No question about that. It's somebody that already trusts you. I mean, a great deal of our customer acquisition cost, it goes into building trust, getting somebody to believe that we are the right choice. And once they've already made that decision, quite often 20, 30, 40% of them would buy almost anything we bring to them if they have a problem they're trying to solve. So no question that is absolutely just proven time and time again. And the beauty of that is it just makes us so much more profitable as a business as well.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the top of the funnel, you've said that social media advertising on Facebook or Instagram, those types of things, is costly, a costly way to market. Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, the real nuts and bolts of it pretty easy is if you are running Facebook ads, quite often you are attracting what us marketers like to call a cold lead. They don't know that much about you. Maybe you kind of caught them in a moment. Something you said in your ad, really piqued their interest, but they don't know anything about you. So people talk commonly about $100, $200, $300 like leads or appointments that might come from that. So if your close rate is 20%, of those, I mean, you've automatically got maybe $1,000 or several $1,000s wrapped up in having a good, solid, quality lead in front of you. So, and that may be okay. I mean, maybe your lifetime value on a customer is hundreds of thousands of dollars, so that may be okay. Yeah. But certainly having that ideal customer tell their business network all about you and having that person come to you and say, hey, Bill said you were amazing. Let's talk about when you can start. The lifetime value of that customer just went through the roof.
And so what you've just described then, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is customer experience. So what's the difference between customer service and customer experience, do you think?
Well, I think customer service usually implies when somebody has a problem or a need or a challenge or they're trying to get an answer to something, they turn to customer service. Customer experience, I think customer service is a part of customer experience, but customer experience, implies the entire process. Did you return a phone call? Did when I filled out a form on your website, was that a good experience? Did you communicate after I bought something exactly what's going to happen next? everything we do to eliminate buyer's remorse, I guess, is part of it. But frankly, customer experience, I think, even starts way back in when somebody's visiting your website and when they are asking for more information and when they have a sales meeting or some sort of discovery call or strategy call. I mean, customer experience is happening in every single one of those, certainly way before somebody would think in terms of providing customer service.
Yeah. One of the concepts in the book that you introduced is a play on "You Only Live Once." It's called TOLO.
Yeah.
What is interested in where this came from for you, and
Sure.
What is TOLO, and why does it matter in this context?
So it's in the context of where I'm talking about thinking of our customers as members. So instead of just transactions, like what's the transformation that we're trying to bring for them? And as I was writing the book, I was actually listening to a podcast, and this particular podcast had a feature, excuse me, at the end where listeners would call into a line and record a message, and he would play the message and then kind of riff on it a little bit. And so this one teacher called in New York, and he was talking about his students, and that he'd always hear them, yell out as they were running down the hall, YOLO, and which, in his mind meant they were getting ready to do something really stupid. But what he said is that, I talked to him about this, and I introduced this concept, and it's kind of heavy, but I think it drives the point home. He said, I want you to imagine that you're going to visit a friend, and that friend is going to die soon, and they don't know it, and you can't tell them. I want you to consider the concept of TOLO, which instead of you only live once, it's they only live once. And the idea behind that is, would that change that conversation? Would that change that interaction? And ultimately, we all only live once, right? And so, what if we thought of our customers that way and the interactions we have with our customers? I mean, again, this can get pretty deep for a marketing conversation, but it kind of, every time I introduce this idea, when I talk on stage to audiences, you could just hear them get quiet and go, wow, I guess that would change something. So it was really just something I heard that was significant to me that I thought helped drive home this point of, how we actually think about our customers, or how we could think about them differently.
That's in the context, you said that very briefly, but I want to pick up on it, of membership. Now, this is not like Costco, right? This is
right.
a part of let's not let that one go. This is on the back of what you call membership, but it's got a very certain context. Tell us about that, if you will.
It's more of a point of view. Regardless of what you sell, if you have customers, think in terms of, what if they felt like they were joining your organization rather than buying from you? I just think it changes the dynamic. Now, obviously, somebody who belongs to an organization that they believe in is going to be more of an advocate. They're going to, talk about it, and they're going to, express, they're going to give referrals. They're going to express how much they appreciate. So obviously, if we start from that point of view, maybe we would start building processes and experiences that would, help them feel like that. Maybe we would start looking at, here's the thing we provide for them today, but if they want to go here, what else could we provide? And so it's really just meant to be kind of I don't know if it's a metaphor or per se, it's just meant to think about a point of view of how we think about, who we serve.
It makes me think about the businesses that we work with that have tech businesses with recurring revenue payments, and they set up customer success departments. So if you can see the reason that they want to do that is they want to retain the customer for the next payment and the following payment and so forth. So they need to make sure that that customer is happy. So that's the kind of, I guess not analogy, but that's the way that I think about it. And if in a more productized business, we think about it like that, and what is the value? I think it's a really underrated component that you're talking about here. That really can change product type businesses or service type businesses a lot.
Well, and for us, if you think about it, if the mission of the business becomes to take our customers from where they are today to where they ultimately want to go, it actually changes everything. It changes your product, it changes your marketing, it changes your sale, it changes who you hire, it changes how you train. So that's when we've introduced this to companies. It's far more significant than just being a nice marketing idea. It actually can become a business strategy.
And that's the philosophy that I loved, is that your job is not to make the sale, it's to make the customer successful.
That's right. There it is.
It's a different philosophy. But then once you understand and appreciate that outcome is the desired outcome, you reverse engineer everything that needs to be done. And so
That's very true.
The customer success track, that is the milestones that you implement or that you understand along the way, right? So what is the customer success track, if you could?
Yeah, so the idea was, if we're going to talk about taking our client from where they are or our customer from where they are to where they want to go, what does that look like on a practical, tangible way? How can we build that? And so in our own business, because we sell marketing services, in our own business, what we discovered was that most of our customers were coming to us in a certain stage. They had grown to a certain point, but they were frustrated with the marketing or the lack of marketing or lack of understanding of marketing. And there were a lot of foundational things that really needed to be built. But what we discovered is if there were certain things, you call them milestones, as I do, if there were certain milestones that we could accomplish, in that first stage, we knew the promise of what was available to them now in the next stage. For a perfect example, there's a lot of people come to us and say, we need to run ads. Well, their website doesn't tell the right message. They don't really have the right offer. And so we've got to fix that. And then we can start generating leads effectively by running ads. And then once we figure out our sales process in generating those leads, now we can start predictably creating recurring revenue. So the idea is that there are stages that we have to evolve through, and that's the track, the customer success track. And because we've been doing it so long, we were able to identify, all the things that were holding back clients in their marketing from moving through those stages. So it's something that's an ongoing work, but it's something that, I introduced it as a us in a way as the case study, but it's something I think just about any business could do. You understand what stage your existing clients are in. What characteristics, exist in that stage. What are the milestones that we need to check off in order to move them out of that stage? And then ultimately, what's the promise, available to them in the next stage? And then you just repeat, do that until you ultimately, evolve somebody to where they want to go.
Yeah. I love it. What I find most businesses are doing is they've got some kind of marketing, perhaps. It could be a paid something or an advertisement, like a paid social or a Google AdWords or something. So they're getting some leads in, and then maybe they're transacting in a smaller way, and then they're putting them onto an email funnel. I mean, that it's hard to say this is what everyone does or this is what all small businesses do, but I find that many people, they've got a little bit of effort, but what you're describing there is a much more curated experience. And I guess most of our listeners would be familiar with the basis of the customer journey map, but it seems like it's what you're advocating is a more, whilst it's still probably a similar to a customer journey map, it's more detailed. And it's really looking to address the success of the customer in the end, if that makes sense. Is that right? Yeah,
what it's about is growing with the customer. I think, we keep our clients for years. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they come to us to fix a specific problem, and we're able to say, sure, we're going to fix that problem. But then here's what's available. And now, after that, we've matured your marketing to this point. So here's what's next. So they look out immediately and think, I'm seeing years out in front of me. So, we set that expectation for this being a complete journey. And I think that makes obviously a huge difference. Now, going back to the original customer journey, the marketing hourglass, one of the things that's very significant about that idea of moving people through stages is that most businesses, the first stage is no. Most businesses understand that. It's like, I have to run ads, I have to network, I have to have sales outreach. Like, that's how people come to know me. But all their attempts are to get people to buy. And if they think about the stages between there of like and trust and try, that's actually how you attract. By intentionally focusing on those stages, you attract the right customer, the ideal customer, and you can usually charge a premium for what it is that you do because you've educated the right customer in the right way, rather than simply trying to sell something to somebody and compete on price.
And what that makes me think about is the difference between sales and marketing. And when you have a medium-sized business, let's say, and you've got a head of sales and marketing, it's kind of the business case as to why you should have a head of marketing and a head of sales, because the head of sales is focused on predominantly selling and will bring everything through that lens. But we need to do more than that. What I would draw from that then is you're saying in the book that a person should change their message to invoke trust. Changing the message that you've got to become more one where we're building the trust along the journey.
That's right. Yep.
Why is that so?
Well, I think in some businesses, if I'm just buying a $29 widget, maybe it's not so important, but particularly you start getting into professional services businesses, you get into higher ticket sales. Trust is probably the number one decision maker. It's certainly, if somebody doesn't have trust, they're going to always be concerned about price. But if I trust beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're going to get me the result that you promised, I'm not going to be so concerned about price. Frankly, that's why referrals are so potent. If somebody says, oh no, they do what they say, I got this result, it's awesome. They're not even going to bicker over price at that point because all the risk has been removed. And that's why, we focus so much on this idea of demonstrating trust. And there's lots of ways to do it, through testimonials, through case studies, through, having seen you on a stage somewhere, through an asset like a book. There are many, many ways today that we build trust, but it has to be really a very intentional aspect of your marketing, or you're going to constantly compete on price.
Yeah. And you reiterated there an important point that we touched on at the beginning, that referrals are the outcome. That's the real success. No one's going to refer if they don't trust, right? Why?
That's right.
I found there's a little bit in there about core values in the book. And you talk about it's important to have customers that have shared core values. Now, you've just mentioned before that in another language, lifetime value of a customer. We want to have customers for a long time who refer us. And I think you even talk about the three different types of customers. The ideal customers, the ones that are paying the optimal profit and referring, or then there's the customers who are referring but not optimal, and then there's the ones that are optimal but not referring, something like that. So that comes back beyond the trust then, having customers with values, because many people would say, look, if they're buying our product or our service and they've got their own set of values that aren't as close to ours, then they're still sending us checks. They're still sending us the money every month. It's okay. Why is it important to have shared values with customers, do you think?
So what you described, I think, can exist. There's no question. There are lots of businesses that, especially in, transactional types of businesses, you're right. It probably doesn't matter. But there are a heck of a lot of businesses, B2B businesses, businesses that provide services at a high level. A lot of that, it's not absolutely essential, but I think that what happens is that you will have a better connection. And values doesn't mean that they go to church. Maybe that's important, maybe that's not important at all. It's more things about what they value. And like, if you work in a B2B business environment, which we do, we find that how they think about their business, what they value in their business, how they invest in their business, those are characteristics that are extremely important if we're going to have success. So, sometimes people, when they start saying the word values, it's like, oh, tell the truth. Those are all, you obviously want to deal with honest, ethical people, but it's more than that. It's more, what they value in terms of their growth and the outcomes as well.
Yeah. Because their success is depending on them making the same decisions around the same behaviors that align with the outcomes that you're looking for as well. Makes sense.
Yeah, do they value advice? Do they take advice? If that's what they've hired us to do, and then they don't value it, then it's probably not going to be a very good fit.
Yeah, that happens once in a while, I suppose. We've probably both experienced that. So 80-20 Pareto rule, it's woven throughout this book.
It is.
It may, I think you say something like, it may seem like it's just another thing, or it's just a common anecdote, but it does seem to appear in physics and everywhere else. So on that, beyond that social media commentary, you say that we need to spend the majority of our time on the top 20% of customers related to profit. Why is this important?
So it is cliche, to come up with the 80-20, but it's amazing how often it proves true. Over the years, working with clients, I would say very accurately that most businesses, a great deal of their profit, great deal of their revenue quite often, comes down to a small percentage of their clients. And so one of the things that we do is we actually get clients to rank their clients by profitability. And then if they can also identify clients that refer them. What we find often is that is the ideal customer. That's who they should be looking for. Too often, one of the biggest mistakes many businesses make is they say, I sell X, and anybody who needs X, is a prospect. When in fact, they find out there's a whole lot of people that aren't, a good fit, that don't appreciate value, that are they're DIYers, or they want a deal on everything. Those people obviously, are tough to build a business around. So what happens is you start looking very closely at the clients, and sometimes it can just be, who do you like working with? Who seems to have a good experience? Whose problem are you really suited to solve? And what we discover is that it usually is about the top 20% of their customers. Now, another thing that comes from this is they typically find that bottom 10, 15, 20%, they probably shouldn't be doing business with at all because they're not profitable. They're probably not having a good experience. They're actually robbing you from focusing on people you really can help. And you probably ought to just cut them loose, quite frankly. But the reason to discover everything you can about this top 20% is it's really twofold. First off, let's tell the world that's who we serve. Let's go find more of them, because you've already discovered that's who you can provide value for. The other part of that is that if you focus building your business around serving those folks, there's a really good chance that some percentage of them would do 10 times more business with you, or 100 times more business with you, if you took the time to deeply figure out what they needed next and next and next. And that's, to me, is the real value in that, because you've already got that customer. So what if you had that $200 a year customer that you turned into a $2,000 a year customer with no more acquisition cost? What would that do to the bottom line?
Well, it would amplify it. It would compound it, and that would make it totally worth it, I reckon. Changing gears now. So the project that I'm working on at the moment is about building a better business. It's a book. So as you reflect on this question, tell me, what do you think? What do you think a better business looks like for you and most of the people that you deal with? How do you describe a better business?
Well, I think that, and again, startup maybe doesn't qualify here, but a business that's been around a little while and has achieved a level of success, I think if the leadership in that business, the owner, the CEO, whatever you call it, really started to view their business as an incubator for the people that work there, to me, that mentorship becomes like a part of culture. That delegation is done in a way that empowers people, and then ultimately the payoff is not only are customers happy, employees happy, maybe the CEO or the founder of that business actually is able to develop a healthier relationship with the rest of their life outside of the business. To me, that maybe sounds a little squishy, but to me that's what a better business looks like.
I love it, and the principle is about bigger isn't better, better is better. So what you've articulated there is in a lot of the research I've done actually a common thread. So thank you so much for sharing that. Is there a book that you would recommend for our audience beyond your books or my books?
I am really a fan of, I don't know if you know Ray Edwards, really a copywriter extraordinaire, and has a number of books and courses and training on copywriting. And How to Write Copy That Sells to me is a great read. And it's not, there are a lot of copywriting books that are all about like, how do you pull an emotion? How do you create fear? And how do you influence people? And ultimately, how do you scam them? And I just think the days of that, people now have so many choices about where they get their information. I think learning how to write authentically and from the heart, in a way that puts the reader, at the center of the story, is a talent or is a skill that every single person should develop.
Well, thank you. That is not what I expected, a copywriting book. I love it. How can people learn more about you and your business?
You bet. So, we work with small, mid-sized businesses as a fractional CMO, and we also license our particular methodology to now hundreds of agencies and consultants around the world that want to bring strategy and fractional CMO type practices to their business. Either one of those appeals to you, you can find out all the information you ever want to know at ducttapemarketing.com, DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Thank you. John, what haven't we discussed that you wanted to cover off today?
I just did. Telling people where they can find out more. We're on a mission to really, through our certification of other agencies and consultants, to really bring marketing strategy to every corner of the world, every small, mid-sized business in the world. We have certified consultants as part of our network in Australia and New Zealand, as well as all over the world.
Lovely. Well, it's been a pleasure, John. First of all, thank you for the 7 books that you've written. The thoughtfulness, the practicality, and the usefulness that you share in those books is, I guess it's a legacy, but it's so appreciated by recipients who you'll never ever meet. So thank you, first of all,
yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience today.
You bet, Brad. My pleasure.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you'd be kind enough to leave a review for the podcast, that'd be really helpful to other like-minded entrepreneurs, and then we can grow our community. If you want to find out more about our guests, head over to evolutionpartners.com.au/podcast, where you can find show notes and other additional reading. Hope to see you back next week. Until then, keep thriving.